Massive stone structures have stood for thousands of years without a single engineering textbook. Their builders possessed a hidden genius, an intuitive grasp of structural harmony that allowed them to create monuments that feel eternally right. This video uncovers how these early architects mastered balance, form, and materials through pure feel, and how their forgotten wisdom is revolutionizing design today. How did they achieve such perfection without complex math, and why do their creations still resonate so deeply within us? We will trace the path from ancient megaliths to modern skyscrapers, revealing how intuition built our world. What does it truly mean for a building to feel alive? The stone felt right in their hands. That was the first and most important calculation. Long before the first blueprint was ever drawn, architecture began with this simple, profound act of touch. A Neolithic builder would walk through a field, their fingers tracing the contours of a potential building stone, searching not for a perfect geometric shape but for a certain heft, a particular balance that promised stability. They were reading the stone's story through their skin and muscles, assembling knowledge not in a library but within the body itself. This is what scholars call embodied knowledge, a deep, tactile wisdom passed down through generations. It was a language of construction spoken not with words, but with the weight of a rock and the arch of a back. Anthropologist David Turnbull describes this as tacit knowledge, the unspoken, practical genius that guided these early projects. Imagine the process. To understand load-bearing, they did not need complex physics. They learned by doing, by stacking and watching what held and what fell. Gravity was their constant and reliable teacher, pulling every stone into its most natural, secure position. They looked to the world around them for inspiration, observing the enduring strength of a mountain cave or the perfect balance of a fallen tree bridging a stream. These natural forms were their living textbooks, demonstrating principles of support and shelter. The incredible passage tomb at Newgrange in Ireland stands as a timeless monument to this intuitive genius. Built over 5,000 years ago, its massive stones form a narrow passage that is flooded with light for just a few precious minutes on the winter solstice sunrise. The builders aligned this entire structure with the moving sun using no instruments we would recognize today. Their tools were patient observation, a deep feeling for the land, and a knowledge of the sky written in stories and ceremony. This was not merely engineering, it was a form of cosmic conversation. The stone itself was just the beginning, a physical anchor for meanings that reached far into the heavens and the human spirit. That instinct to build a stable tower of blocks runs far deeper than childhood play. It is the very foundation of architectural intuition. Early builders understood symmetry and balance not as ideas to be studied, but as physical laws to be felt. They saw it in their own bodies, in the matching arrangement of arms and legs that allowed for steady movement. They observed it in the world around them, in the unwavering trunk of a great tree and the enduring, stable bulk of a mountain. This was a knowledge written into their bones long before the Roman architect Vitruvius famously sketched a man with outstretched limbs, perfectly framed within a circle and a square, formalizing that innate connection between the human form and harmonious design. This intuitive grasp expressed itself in several profound ways. Bilateral symmetry, the mirroring of left and right, created a sense of visual and structural calm that simply felt correct. The golden ratio, a specific proportional relationship often found in nature, was likely not a number they calculated, but an emergent property they discovered through trial and error, a shape that consistently yielded a pleasing and strong form. Their tools were simple extensions of this bodily wisdom, A plumb bob, a weight on a string, was nothing more than a physical manifestation of their intuitive sense of vertical, of what it means to stand upright. A water level translated their innate understanding of horizontal, of a calm and even surface, into a guide for construction. Perhaps no structure better illustrates this intuitive genius than the Parthenon in Athens. To our eyes, it appears as a monument of perfect, straight lines and flawless geometry. Yet its architects made subtle, brilliant corrections that pure mathematics might have missed. The columns are not straight, they swell slightly in the middle to counter the visual effect that would make them appear pinched. They do not stand perfectly vertical, they lean inward toward the center of the building. These were not calculated adjustments in the modern sense, they were the decisions of a master's eye, an intuitive response to optical illusion to ensure the entire structure felt perfectly balanced and majestic from a distance. Was this the work of a mathematician or a sculptor? The answer is likely both, a fusion of number and feel that created an enduring ideal of beauty. This deep, physical understanding of balance was the silent partner in every stable wall and the guiding force behind every arch that dared to reach for the sky. A master carpenter does not need a laboratory report. They simply tap a piece of wood and listen. The sound that echoes back tells a complete story of density, of internal structure, of hidden strength. This was the second principle of the early architects, a deep, intuitive conversation with the very substance of their world. They learned to read stone, wood, and clay not with instruments, but with their hands, their eyes, and generations of accumulated wisdom. There were no textbooks on material science. Knowledge was instead encoded in folklore, in the proverbs passed from elder to apprentice, and in the silent language of touch. As engineer J.E. Gordon noted, traditional structures have a unique genius. They work with a material's natural properties rather than forcing it into an unnatural shape. This profound understanding reveals itself in countless ways. Builders knew to select a specific granular limestone because it was workable, holding the fine details of a carving without shattering. They understood the direction of the grain in a timber beam, knowing how it would bear a load or resist splitting over centuries. They mixed clay with straw, not as a random additive, but as a brilliant intuitive leap, creating a composite material where the straw provided tensile strength, holding the brick together as it dried and hardened. No single person discovered this. It was a truth that emerged from 1,000 hands working the earth. The pyramids of Giza stand as the ultimate monument to this born of experienced knowledge. The builders did not simply use any stone they could find. They intuitively selected specific limestone for the core blocks, a material that could bear immense compressive weight, and they journeyed to distant quarries for a particular granite, chosen for its hard, enduring nature to line the burial chamber and passages. How did they know which quarry held the best stone? The answer lies not in a single brilliant mind, but in a cultural memory, a lineage of builders who had handled, shaped, and learned from stone for generations. They understood how to transport these colossal blocks, how to shape them with such precision that a razor blade cannot slip between them, all through a tactile, living relationship with the material itself. This intimate partnership with earth and wood was the essential foundation, the quiet preparation for the next great challenge, learning to dance with the elemental forces of wind and weight. A window was never just an opening for light, it was a lung for the building itself. The early architects understood that a structure did not end at its walls. It was in constant conversation with the wind, the sun, and the water. Their genius lay in positioning a building to receive a cool breeze or deflect a harsh glare, harnessing natural forces with an intuitive mastery we now strive to replicate with complex technology. This was a deep form of listening, of observing a place so thoroughly that the design emerged from the land itself. They practiced a kind of ancient biomimicry, learning from the world around them. They saw how a termite mound maintains a constant internal temperature through a clever system of vents, and they saw how a beaver dam naturally manages the flow of water. These were not just animal habitats, they were blueprints for environmental harmony. The principles they gleaned from this observation were elegantly simple yet profoundly effective. A building's main face would be oriented to welcome the low winter sun for warmth, while its overhangs were designed to block the high, scorching summer sun. They crafted ventilation shafts that acted like chimneys, pulling cool air from below and releasing hot air rising from within, creating a gentle, self-sustaining breeze. Water was not merely decorative, it was a functional tool. Courtyard fountains and pools increased humidity in dry climates, making the air feel cooler, while the soothing sound of flowing water contributed to an atmosphere of serene tranquility. No building embodies this intuitive environmental science more completely than the Alhambra Palace in Granada. Here, the architects did not fight the dry heat of southern Spain, they invited it in and tamed it. Serpentine waterways channel cool water through sun-drenched courtyards. The moment the water evaporates, it pulls heat from the surrounding air, a natural cooling effect powered by simple physics. Strategically placed windows capture cross breezes, and shaded arcades offer refuge from the midday sun. The entire complex is a self-regulating microclimate, a masterpiece of comfort achieved not with machinery, but with an unparalleled feel for the dance between stone and sky. Was this a hidden science of climate, a secret doctrine passed from master to apprentice? It was likely something even more profound, a wisdom woven into daily life and spiritual practice, where building in tune with the earth was an act of reverence. This deep, intuitive partnership with the natural world suggests that their structures were not just physical shelters, but vessels for a deeper, more sacred connection. The ground itself had to be made sacred before a single stone could be placed. For the master builders of the past, construction was never a purely physical task. It was a ritual act of cosmic alignment. The blueprint was more than a guide for walls. It was a map of the universe, a diagram of the human soul, or a pathway to the divine. This profound symbolic intent was the invisible foundation upon which every physical structure was built, guiding proportions and forms with an intuition rooted in faith. The cross-shaped floor plan of a great cathedral was not merely an aesthetic choice. It was a physical declaration of belief, and its entire geometry flowed from that central, sacred idea. This connection was made tangible through the language of sacred geometry. Builders used forms like the vesica piscis, the almond shape created by two overlapping circles, not because it was mathematically convenient, but because it held deep spiritual meaning, representing the intersection of the divine and the earthly. From this single, resonant shape, they could derive the harmonious dimensions of a doorway or the entire layout of a sacred space. The alignment of temples and stone circles with the solstice sun or specific stars was another expression of this principle, stitching the building into the fabric of the cosmos itself. Even numbers held power, with symbolic values like 3 for the divine or 7 for completion being woven directly into the count of columns or the steps of a staircase. Chartres Cathedral stands as a breathtaking symphony of this sacred structural logic. The great labyrinth inlaid in its stone floor is not a simple decoration. It is a spiritual tool for a walking meditation, its path guiding movement in a way that feels inherently balanced and purposeful. High above, the massive rose window is not just a source of colored light. It is a cosmic wheel, its intricate stone tracery and glowing glass designed to tell a sacred story, and transform the very quality of the interior illumination. Every element works in concert, not because a structural engineer calculated the load, but because the architect sought to create a vessel for an experience that was both physically uplifting and spiritually resonant. This leads us to a compelling question. Was the legendary stability of these monuments a direct result of their spiritual correctness? When a building was conceived as a true reflection of cosmic order, did its form naturally find a more perfect, enduring balance? This fusion of faith and form represents the highest expression of architectural intuition, a theme that finds its most ancient and powerful roots in the very first masters of stone, the megalithic builders who listened to the whispers of the earth itself. The silent language of Stonehenge speaks through its joints. When the builders raised a massive horizontal lintel to cap two upright stones, they did not simply let it rest by gravity alone. They carved the top of each upright with a rounded bump, a tenon, and they carved the underside of the lintel with a matching hollow, a mortise. This was stone joinery, a technique born from woodworking intuition translated onto a monumental scale. It was as if they were building with the world's largest pieces of furniture, ensuring each component was locked into its neighbor, creating a structure that could resist the relentless push of wind and time. This was not crude stacking, it was a conscious, brilliant application of post and lintel principles, where the stability came from the intelligent shaping of the stone itself. They even curved the lintel slightly, creating a continuous stone ring in the sky that felt perfectly circular to the eye. How did they achieve this subtle curvature without precision instruments? The answer lies in a deeply held feel for geometry, a knowledge passed down and refined through generations of working with the land. The stones themselves were chosen with incredible care. The giant sarcens were local, but the smaller, distinctive blue stones were transported an astonishing 150 miles from the mountains of Wales. This was not a random choice. Archaeologists like Mike Parker Pearson suggest these stones held a powerful significance, perhaps for their unique acoustic properties, ringing like a bell when struck, or for their connection to the ancestral land of the builders. Transporting them was a feat of intuitive logistics. We can envision teams of people moving these colossal weights on wooden sledges across log rollers, a rhythmic, coordinated effort that required a shared understanding of friction, leverage, and balance. Every pull and push was a lesson in physics, learned not from a book but from the strain in their muscles and the movement of the stone. The entire monument was then precisely aligned so that on the summer solstice, the sun rises directly over the heel stone, casting its long beam into the heart of the circle. This alignment required not just a single observation, but a sustained, multi-generational project of watching the sky and marking the horizon, embedding celestial cycles into the very bones of the earth. The audacity of Stonehenge is breathtaking, a testament to a society that could envision a project spanning centuries and hold that vision steady through an unbroken chain of intuitive knowledge. This collective genius for uniting earth and sky in stone would soon find a powerful echo in another civilization, one that would refine this intuitive geometry into the most perfect shapes ever built. The sound of a blacksmith's hammer striking metal was said to have sparked a revolution. The story goes that Pythagoras, hearing the different tones produced by hammers of varying weights, recognized a mathematical pattern in the musical harmony. This was the moment intuition met geometry, not in a builder's yard but in the ringing of an anvil. Pythagoras did not invent the right angle. He gave it a name and a number, formalizing a relationship that masons had felt in their bones for millennia. His followers, the Pythagoreans, took this further, believing that numbers and ratios were the hidden language of the cosmos itself. For them, the universe was built from geometry, and a beautiful building was simply one that spoke this divine language fluently. This philosophy gave birth to the concept of harmonia, the idea that a structure's beauty and stability came from the pleasing, proportional assembly of its parts. This was no longer just about a stone feeling right. It was about a room's dimensions singing in perfect mathematical accord. You can hear this numerical harmony in the very plans of Greek temples. Builders began using simple, perfect ratios to determine proportions. A room might be 1 unit wide and 2 units long, a ratio of 1 to 2, creating a space that felt balanced and complete because its dimensions resonated with the fundamental order of the world. The Pythagorean theorem itself, that the square of a triangle's longest side equals the sum of the squares of the other two, became the ultimate tool for guaranteeing perfect right angles, the essential starting point for any stable construction. This was the new blueprint, a belief that mathematical beauty was not just aesthetic, it was structurally and spiritually sound. The Temple of Apollo at Bassae stands as a quiet monument to this philosophical shift. Its design incorporates various geometric rules, its proportions likely dictated by the same ratios that governed musical scales. The result is a structure that feels intuitively right to the eye, yet whose perfection is rooted in number. This fusion prompts a profound question. Did these new rules of geometry enhance the builder's ancient intuition, or did they begin to replace it? Was the feel of the stone now secondary to the precision of the string line? This marriage of number and form created an entirely new language for design, a language that would soon be mastered and amplified by the Romans, who would use it not just to build beautiful temples, but to orchestrate the very space within an empire. A line of Roman legionaries marched in perfect step across a newly built stone bridge. This was the final test, a demonstration of faith not in complex calculations, but in the intuitive genius of the arch. With every synchronized footfall, they proved its stability through the collective weight of their trust. The Romans did not invent the arch, but they perfected it through a profound, practical understanding of how stone behaves under pressure. They grasped a concept modern engineers call the flow of forces, an intuitive sense for how weight channels itself through masonry in elegant, predictable paths. At the heart of every arch was the keystone, that final, wedge-shaped stone tapped into place at the very top. The moment it was set, the entire structure transformed from a precarious pile into a single, unified entity. The weight of the world above was translated into a powerful downward force that was then redirected by the keystone outwards along the curve of the arch and down into the supporting piers. The Romans understood this outward push, this thrust, was the arch's greatest secret and its greatest vulnerability. Their brilliant intuitive solution was the buttress, a mass of masonry built to shoulder that lateral force, to stand firm against the arch's desire to sprawl outward and collapse. This simple, powerful principle allowed them to scale their ambitions, stacking arches to create the mighty aqueducts that brought water to cities and spanning vast spaces with the monumental barrel vaults that defined their basilicas and baths. Then came their revolutionary material, Roman concrete. This was not the concrete we know today, but a miraculous blend of volcanic ash, lime, and rubble that could be mixed with water and poured into wooden molds. It liberated their designs from the constraints of carved stone, allowing them to create forms that were previously unimaginable, shapes that flowed from their intuition directly into solid, enduring reality. The ultimate expression of this empirical boldness is the Pantheon in Rome. Its dome is a perfect hemisphere of poured concrete, so vast and so daring that its structural logic seems to defy gravity. How did they know it would not collapse? The answer lies in a series of brilliant intuitive choices. The thickness of the dome decreases as it rises, lightening the load at its most vulnerable point. The interior is carved with recessed, square panels called coffers, which remove excess weight without sacrificing an ounce of strength. And at the very apex, the oculus, a great open eye to the sky, serves as the circle's final, perfect keystone, simultaneously relieving the structure of its greatest central weight and flooding the immense space with a moving beam of light. For over 1,000 years, no dome would surpass its span. It stands as a monument to a knowledge that was felt as much as it was calculated, a spirit of architectural courage that would soon be channeled into a new and soaring ambition, the race to touch the heavens. Gaze up into the rib-vaulted ceiling of a Gothic cathedral, a stone skeleton that seems to dissolve into ethereal light. This was an architectural revolution born from a simple, daring question: how could stone be made to defy its own weight? The answer was not found in a single blueprint, but in the collective intuition of generations of masons who learned to build by building. The Gothic master developed the flying buttress, an externalized skeletal system that was a stroke of intuitive genius. It solved the fundamental puzzle of how to make walls impossibly tall and thin while filling them with vast, colorful windows. These graceful stone arms reached out from the sides of the cathedral, catching the outward thrust from the high vaults within and channeling it down into the ground, like a friend bracing your shoulders to help you stand taller. This was not a static design conceived entirely on parchment. It was a dynamic process of design and build, where masons watched their creation rise and made adjustments based on the whispers of the stone itself, learning from hairline cracks and subtle settlements. The pointed arch was another intuitive leap. Unlike the rounded Roman arch that pushes downward and outward with equal force, the pointed arch directs more of its load dramatically downward. This allowed for taller, more slender piers and a vertical reach that felt less like construction and more like a prayer made solid. The knowledge to execute this vision resided not in a library, but in the mind of the master mason. He held the secrets of construction in his head, a living repository of proportions, geometries, and tricks of the trade, passed down through an unbroken chain of apprenticeship. To work out the incredibly complex intersections of ribs and arches, they used full-scale tracing floors. These were large plaster surfaces where they would scratch out the full-sized patterns for every stone, a physical, intuitive way to solve three-dimensional puzzles in 2 dimensions, ensuring every block would fit perfectly into its celestial puzzle. The construction of Notre Dame de Paris stands as the ultimate testament to this evolving intuition. For over a century, successive generations of builders intuitively modified and strengthened the structure, each master mason adding his own layer of understanding to the work of his predecessors. Their success was not a matter of luck, but of a deeply ingrained structural sense, a feel for stone and force honed by a lifetime of handling both. This breathtaking vertical leap was a testament to intuition pushed to its absolute limits, a tradition of building that was simultaneously unfolding with its own unique sophistication in the East. A wooden temple sways gently in an earthquake, and this is its greatest strength. While Gothic cathedrals reached for the heavens in stone, a parallel tradition of intuition was flourishing in the East, one that sought not to conquer nature but to flow with its every breath. The philosophies of Taoism and Zen Buddhism infused architecture with a different kind of wisdom, one that valued natural harmony over imposed symmetry and saw profound beauty in the irregular and the impermanent. Walking through a Japanese temple complex, you feel this immediately. The structures are not objects placed upon the land, but extensions of it, with deeply overhanging roofs that echo the forest canopy and verandas that blur the line between inside and out. This was an architecture of feeling, designed to cultivate peace by embracing the world as it is, not as geometry might dictate. At the heart of this intuitive engineering lies the Chinese dugong bracket system, a breathtakingly complex network of interlocking wooden pieces that crowns the columns of great halls. It looks like a wooden cloud, a fractal puzzle of brackets and arms that seems to defy logic. Yet its genius is profoundly intuitive, developed over 1,000 years through endless cycles of observation and refinement. The dugong acts as a sophisticated shock absorber, its flexible joints allowing the entire structure to sway and settle during a tremor, dissipating the energy that would shatter rigid stone. Not a single nail or drop of glue is used. The system relies entirely on precise joinery and the intelligent distribution of weight, channeling the massive load of the tiled roof down through the wooden lattice and safely into the pillars below. This is intuition carved into wood, a living system that breathes with the earth. This principle of effortless action, known as Wu-Wei, guided the placement of buildings within the landscape. A designer would not force a symmetrical plan onto a hillside. Instead, they would observe the flow of water, the path of the sun, and the lie of the land, allowing the design to emerge naturally from its context. The Japanese tea ceremony master Sen no Rikyu applied this to architecture, designing tea houses with intentionally low doorways and irregular windows to encourage humility and a focus on the present moment. The beauty was in the worn wood, the slightly uneven plaster, the way the building accepted the passage of time. The Forbidden City in Beijing stands as the ultimate expression of this cosmic intuition. Its vast, symmetrical layout was not about geometric perfection for its own sake, but about mirroring an order believed to be inherent in the universe. Every hall, every courtyard, and every dugong cluster was positioned according to a deep, culturally ingrained sense of balance between earth, heaven, and humankind. So how does this Eastern approach to balance differ from the Western pursuit of symmetry we saw in the Parthenon? The West often sought to create an ideal order upon the world, a perfect mathematical form. The East sought to reveal the order already present within the world, with all its graceful asymmetry and organic flow. Both paths, however, were guided by a profound human impulse to build in harmony with a deeper truth. This ancient, intuitive dialogue between builder and world was about to be interrupted by the rise of a powerful new language, one that promised absolute certainty through calculation. Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks are stained with the pursuit of a hidden truth. While he meticulously mapped the sinews of the human form, he was searching for more than anatomical knowledge. He was seeking the divine blueprint that Vitruvius had only written about. This was the dawn of the Renaissance, a moment when the intuitive wisdom of the mason began to share its stage with the calculated vision of the artist-architect. For the first time, architecture was becoming a paper profession. Filippo Brunelleschi, consumed with a new way of seeing, developed linear perspective, a mathematical system that allowed a designer to capture a three-dimensional building on a two-dimensional sheet. This was a power shift of monumental proportions. The vision for a structure could now exist entirely in the mind and on the page of a single genius, long before the first foundation stone was ever laid. Leon Battista Alberti took this further, publishing seminal treatises that codified the rules of beautiful and correct building. These books were intended to elevate architecture from a manual craft to a liberal art, a discipline of the mind as much as of the hands. The master mason, who held the secrets of construction in his calloused palms, now worked from drawings created by an intellectual who might never have laid a brick himself. This created a subtle but growing rift, a separation between the one who designed the form and the ones who felt its weight and balance. Brunelleschi's magnificent dome for the Florence Cathedral stands as the perfect symbol of this transition. The problem was immense, spanning a space so wide that no one knew how to close it. His solution was a brilliant hybrid of inherited intuition and radical innovation. He employed a double shell, a concept that lightened the overall mass, and he arranged the bricks in a herringbone pattern, a method that inherently locked the courses together and channeled forces downward. Did he calculate the precise physics of this spiral pattern, or was this the application of a deep, tactile understanding of how brick wants to behave, a feel for materials honed by a lifetime of building? The answer is likely both. He used wooden and stone models to communicate his vision, but the final, brilliant adjustments were surely made by the man on the scaffold, feeling the structure come to life. This new reliance on the drawing board prompts a profound question. Did the translation of a building from an embodied skill to an intellectual design begin to slowly drain the lived, tactile wisdom from our structures? The Renaissance architect, for all his genius, initiated a quiet divorce between the mind that conceives and the hand that builds, a tension between calculation and feel that would come to define our modern world. A single, unique mark was chiseled into the hidden face of a cathedral stone, a signature in a language of craft. This was the world of the medieval guilds, a closed society where architectural genius was not written in books but etched into muscle memory and passed in quiet moments between a master and his apprentice. The true blueprint for a soaring vault or a perfect arch existed not on parchment, but in a living library of rules of thumb, practical shortcuts born from centuries of collective trial and error. A master might run his thumb along a string line to judge a curve, or use the span of his hand to confirm a proportion, each gesture a capsule of hard-won wisdom. His tools were humble yet profound, the compass for the circle and the square for the right angle, objects that were both practical instruments and powerful symbols of cosmic order and earthly virtue. This knowledge was protected fiercely, for it was the guild's greatest treasure. Stonemason's mark served as a brilliant, intuitive system of accountability. Each craftsman had his own unique symbol, carved into every block he shaped. If a stone failed, the mark identified its maker, ensuring a personal stake in the quality of every single piece of the immense puzzle. This was quality control written in stone, a system driven by pride and identity. For laying out the entire footprint of a sacred building, they relied on geometric schemes known as ad quadratum and ad triangulum. Ad quadratum started with a square, generating the proportions of the entire plan through its inherent diagonals and subdivisions. Ad triangulum used the equilateral triangle, a shape of perfect balance, to derive the heights of walls and the peaks of spires. These were not abstract mathematical exercises, they were felt geometries drawn full scale on tracing floors, a direct physical connection to the harmonious principles they believed governed the universe. The legendary secrets of the masters were likely this very body of unwritten intuition, the subtle tricks for countering optical illusion, the exact feel for a mortar mix, the knowing tap that could find a hidden flaw in a block of limestone. Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland stands as a breathtaking archive of this encoded knowledge. Its interior is a stone forest of intricate carvings, from cascading arches to mysterious figures and symbolic plants. Every surface tells a story, and many theorists suggest the very arrangement of its pillars and the patterns in its stonework hold geometric and even musical codes, a final, beautiful testament to the Masonic tradition of embedding deep wisdom within artistry. So what was lost when the guilds finally dissolved? It was the nuance, the feel, the 1,000 tiny corrections made by an experienced hand that no textbook could ever capture. The rise of formal academic architecture, with its rigid textbooks and standardized drawings, slowly pushed this deep, tactile wisdom to the margins. The intuitive conversation between the builder and the stone grew faint, creating a silence that the emerging modern world, with its new faith in pure calculation, was eager to fill with the sound of machinery. The roar of a steam hammer signaled a new kind of silence. For centuries, the quiet conversation between a builder's hand and the stone was the loudest sound in architecture. Now it was being drowned out by the precise, metallic rhythm of the machine. The 19th century did not just introduce new materials, it introduced a new faith, a belief that every question of structure could be answered not by feel but by calculation. The role of the architect was fundamentally rewritten, transforming from a master of craft into a conductor of scientific principles. This new discipline, structural mechanics, gave them the power to predict a building's behavior on paper long before it ever rose into the sky. Figures like Gustave Eiffel became the new icons, men who wielded logarithmic tables and stress diagrams to design a tower of iron that seemed to defy the very wind it was built to withstand. His famous tower was not a product of intuition, but of thousands upon thousands of individual calculations, each one proving its stability with mathematical certainty. The very substance of building was reinvented with the development of reinforced concrete. By embedding steel rods within the wet concrete, engineers created a hybrid material that could resist both crushing and pulling forces. This single innovation shattered old limitations, allowing for forms that seemed to flow and float, cantilevering out over empty space in ways that would have been pure fantasy to a medieval mason. This new, calculable world demanded a new kind of professional, the structural engineer. This was the great divorce, the formal separation of the mind that designed the form from the hands that understood the material. The architect could now dream in shapes, while the engineer ensured those dreams would not collapse under their own ambition. The Crystal Palace, erected for the Great Exhibition of 1851, stands as the ultimate symbol of this industrial gospel. It was not built, it was assembled like a vast kit of parts. Its structure was a forest of identical, prefabricated iron columns and beams, holding up acres of standardized glass panes. There was no master mason carving a unique keystone, no intuitive adjustment made on a tracing floor. Every piece was manufactured to a precise specification, and the entire monumental greenhouse was erected in a matter of months. Its beauty was the beauty of efficiency and predictability, but this triumph of engineering science forces a difficult question. In banishing the guesswork, did we also lose the ghost? Was something essential, a kind of soulful resonance, sacrificed when building became a pure science rather than a lived craft? This new era created a profound and growing gap, a disconnect between the clean lines on a designer's drafting table and the messy, unpredictable reality of the building site. It is a gap that, even today, the most visionary architects are still striving to close. A stark white wall is a declaration of war against the past. The modernist architects of the 20th century did not just design buildings, they launched a revolution, stripping away centuries of ornament in a radical search for something they believed was more honest, the pure essence of form. This movement created a profound paradox, a deep tension between the cold logic of the machine and a raw, almost primal intuition. On one hand, figures like Le Corbusier championed the house as a machine for living in, a vision of rational efficiency built from standardized parts and industrial materials. This was the age of the engineer, where calculation appeared to have finally triumphed over the artisan's feel. Yet, in their obsessive pursuit of primary shapes, the pure cube, the flawless sphere, and the clean cylinder, these same architects were reaching for something deeper, a return to the fundamental, intuitive geometries that the earliest builders had discovered through touch. The famous dictum form follows function became their new mantra, a kind of logical intuition where the purpose of a space would directly and honestly dictate its shape, with no room for decorative lies. This required a fresh, intuitive relationship with new materials like steel and plate glass. How do you feel the inherent strength of a steel beam or the visual weight of a sheer glass curtain wall? These substances had no long history of folk wisdom, so architects had to develop a new tactile sense, learning how these industrial materials wanted to be assembled. This search for authenticity drew them to the art of so-called primal cultures, to the sturdy pottery of indigenous peoples and the clean lines of Japanese temples. Frank Lloyd Wright, though he stood apart from the European modernists, was a master of this intuitive synthesis. His masterpiece, Falling Waiter, is a symphony in stone and concrete that seems to defy its own nature. Its dramatic cantilevered terraces stretch out over a waterfall, not as an imposition on the landscape, but as an organic extension of the rock ledges below. Wright did not fight the sight, he listened to it, allowing the sound of the water and the shape of the boulders to guide his hand. The engineering was audacious, so much so that the contractors were deeply fearful, and Wright, confident in his intuitive grasp of the reinforced concrete's potential, reportedly insisted on adding more steel to quell their doubts. So, did modernism kill the ancient flame of architectural intuition, or did it simply transfer that flame into a new kind of lamp? It did not kill it, but it certainly caged it within a framework of rigid principles. In seeking purity, modernism often created spaces that felt cold and impersonal to the human spirit, a clear signal that intuition could not be so easily dismissed. This rejection of the purely mechanical would soon ignite a powerful counter-movement, a late-century rebellion that sought to bring the soul back into the room. A giant broken pediment sits atop a small shed, a playful wink at history. This was the essence of postmodernism, a deliberate and colorful rebellion against the stark white box of modernism. Architects began to feel that the pursuit of pure function had created a world of sterile, anonymous buildings that ignored the human need for story, memory, and delight. This was not a nostalgic return to hand-carving stone, but a new kind of intellectual intuition, one that drew from the vast library of architectural history, pop culture, and the unique spirit of a place. Thinkers like Robert Venturi led the charge, openly challenging modernist dogma by championing complexity and contradiction over boring simplicity. He argued for a messy vitality, an architecture that could hold multiple meanings at once, just like the way we actually experience life. This movement expressed itself through several key intuitive shifts. Familiar historical forms like the classical column or the Gothic arch were reintroduced, but often in surprising, distorted, or humorous ways, breaking the rules to create a new kind of visual poetry. There was a renewed emphasis on creating a distinct sense of place, designing a building that felt like it belonged specifically to its street, its city, and its community, rather than being a universal solution dropped from the sky. This was a rejection of the one-size-fits-all approach, favoring instead a bespoke design intuition that responded directly to its context. The Piazza d'Italia in New Orleans is a breathtaking carnival of this philosophy. Designed by Charles Moore, it is a public square that collages pieces of Roman antiquity with stainless steel and neon lights. It is not a faithful reconstruction, but a joyful, theatrical stage set that celebrates the Italian-American community with a sense of humor and warmth. So, was this just a superficial game of styling, a mere putting on of historical masks? Or was it a genuine attempt to re-engage with the deeper, intuitive ways people feel and remember within a space? By acknowledging that we carry our histories and stories with us, postmodernism made a crucial intuitive leap. It recognized that a building is not just a physical object, but a vessel for human emotion and cultural memory. This playful rebellion, for all its theatricality, reopened a vital conversation. It cracked the door for a much more profound reconnection with the intuitive principles that guided the very first builders, a reconnection that is now being powered by the most unexpected of partners, the artificial mind of the computer. The microscopic surface of a lotus leaf holds a secret that ancient builders would have understood in their bones. Its tiny, waxy bumps cause water to bead up and roll away, carrying dirt with it, a perfect self-cleaning system. Modern scientists did not invent this principle. They simply uncovered the profound logic behind what early artisans knew by feel. This conscious study of nature's blueprints is called biomimicry, and it represents the 21st century's most direct bridge back to that foundational intuition. It is the formal process of consulting life's 3.8 billion-year research and development period to solve our greatest design challenges, a deliberate return to learning from the world around us. We see this in the quest for stronger, lighter buildings. Engineers analyze the intricate latticework inside a bird's bone, a structure that achieves immense strength with minimal weight, and they apply that same efficient logic to the steel frames of skyscrapers and the wings of aircraft. In the search for clean energy, researchers mimic the process of photosynthesis, developing artificial leaves that can capture sunlight and split water molecules to create fuel, just as a plant does. Even the ground beneath our feet is being reimagined by looking at the tenacious, interlocking root systems of trees, which stabilize slopes and inspire new, resilient foundation designs for buildings in challenging terrain. The Eastgate Center in Harare, Zimbabwe, stands as a living monument to this principle. Its architect, Mick Pierce, studied the towering mounds of African termites, which maintain a constant, cool internal temperature despite the scorching heat outside. The termites achieve this through a clever network of ventilation tunnels that constantly draw in cool air and expel warm air. The Eastgate Center operates on the same intuitive logic, using a system of chimneys and fans to naturally circulate air, maintaining a comfortable climate without the massive energy cost of conventional air conditioning. So how is this modern, scientific approach different from the unconscious intuition of a Neolithic builder? The early artisan felt that a certain shape was strong, while the modern engineer can now explain precisely why that shape is strong, using physics and biology to validate the ancient feeling. Biomimicry reveals that the old intuitive ways were not just superstition. They were a deep, pre-scientific understanding of the same physical laws we are now documenting. This ancient truth is no longer just a feeling in a mason's hands. It is a set of principles being validated and powerfully amplified by our newest digital tools. A fluid curve on a digital screen holds the structural logic of a mountain. Today's architect engages in a silent dialogue with the machine, where a single adjustment to a virtual model prompts an instant recalculation of every load and stress. This is the new frontier of intuition, a partnership between human feeling and computational intelligence known as parametric design. The designer no longer draws every line. Instead, they set the parameters, the rules of the game, sunlight exposure, wind patterns, spatial requirements. The software then generates a vast field of possibilities, thousands of design variations, each one a valid answer to the initial conditions. The architect's role becomes one of intuitive selection, scanning this digital ecosystem for the form that feels most resonant, most right. It is a process of co-creation where the machine's limitless capacity for calculation amplifies the human capacity for judgment. This collaboration expresses itself in several profound ways. Complex algorithms can now create organic, undulating forms that would be impossible to draft by hand, shapes that echo the flowing lines of nature. Building Information Modeling, or BIM, constructs an intuitive digital twin of the entire building, a living model that contains every pipe, wire, and bolt, allowing designers to sense conflicts and understand the building as an integrated system before a single shovel hits the earth. And with virtual reality, they can now step inside their own nascent creation, intuitively experiencing the scale of a hallway or the quality of light in a room, making adjustments based on a visceral, embodied feeling rather than a flat drawing. The Heydar Aliyev Center in Baku, designed by Zaha Hadid architects, is a breathtaking sculpture born from this digital dialogue. Its seamless, soaring curves appear as a single, continuous surface, a form that emerged from the fluid logic of parametric tools. These tools translated a powerful, intuitive vision for a building with no sharp corners into a reality of precisely engineered panels and frames. So, does this shift the architect from a form giver to a curator of algorithmic possibilities? It is not a demotion, but an evolution. The computer handles the immense complexity, freeing the designer to focus on the deeper questions of experience, meaning, and beauty. This digital dialogue is forging a new kind of intuition, one that demands we reconsider the very essence of the creative process, a process that is now reaching beyond the screen to draw inspiration from the deepest patterns of the living world. That feeling of calm in a sunlit library or the awe inside a grand cathedral is not an accident. It is the direct result of a building speaking to your entire body, not just your eyes. This philosophy, known as architectural phenomenology, represents a conscious and urgent return to the principles that guided the earliest builders, a modern effort to design for the human experience in its fullest, most sensory form. The Finnish thinker Juhani Pallasmaa suggests that our most authentic architectural encounters are multi-sensory. We do not just see a space, we hear the way sound is absorbed by thick stone or reflected by polished marble. We feel the reassuring solidity of a wooden handrail under our palm, and we sense the subtle shift in temperature as we move from a sun-drenched courtyard into a shaded cloister. This is a direct challenge to the purely visual culture of modern design, a call to remember that we inhabit spaces with our whole physical being. This philosophy expresses itself through several key intuitive layers. The first is the haptic quality of materials, the essential truth that we yearn to touch the world around us. A rough textured wall of raw concrete feels fundamentally different from a smooth, cool slab of granite, and each communicates a different emotional tone, one of rugged strength, the other of serene permanence. The second layer is the choreography of movement. A great building is not a static picture, it is a sequence of experiences, a carefully paced journey that builds anticipation as you approach, offers moments of discovery in a courtyard, and culminates in a final, breathtaking reveal. The third layer is the masterful use of light and shadow. Light is not merely for illumination, it is the brushstroke that paints the mood of a room, carving volumes out of darkness and creating pools of contemplative quiet. The Therme Spa in Switzerland, designed by Peter Zumthor, is a temple to this sensory philosophy. Built from locally quarried Valser quartzite, the entire structure feels like an extension of the mountain itself. The experience is a ritual. You move from the bright, noisy world outside into a dim, warm labyrinth of stone. The air is thick with steam and the quiet sound of dripping water. Your fingers trace the grooves in the stone walls as you walk. Light enters through narrow slits, carving shafts through the mist and highlighting the texture of the rock. Every single element, from the temperature of the water to the acoustics of the chambers, is meticulously curated to create a profound, wordless sense of restoration. This is not architecture you look at, it is architecture you feel in your bones. It proves that the ultimate test of a building's success is not its structural efficiency alone, but its ability to resonate with our deepest human senses, a truth the master masons of old understood without ever needing a name for it. A building can now be judged not by its footprint, but by its handprint, the positive mark it leaves upon the world. This is the core of regenerative design, a philosophy that represents the modern ethical culmination of architectural intuition. It moves beyond simply minimizing damage, reaching instead for a state where a structure, like a mature forest, actively heals and enriches its environment. This requires a profound shift in thinking, an intuitive grasp of the building as a node within a living ecosystem, with responsibilities to the air, water, and life around it. This holistic view is a direct echo of the early builders' innate sense of environmental integration, now expanded to a planetary scale. This intuitive approach manifests in several powerful ways. The first is designing for disassembly, where every joint and material is chosen with its next life in mind, allowing future generations to intuitively dismantle and reuse components rather than sending them to a landfill. The second is creating buildings that are net positive, intuitively generating their own energy through integrated solar panels, and managing their own water through living roofs and rainwater harvesting systems that purify and recycle every drop. The third is biophilic design, which intuitively reconnects occupants with nature through ample daylight, natural ventilation, and the incorporation of plant life, recognizing that our own well-being is inextricably linked to the natural world. The Bullitt Center in Seattle stands as a towering example of this living intuition. Dubbed the greenest commercial building in the world, it operates with the self-sufficient logic of a tree. Its expansive canopy of solar panels generates more electricity than it uses. Its roof captures rainwater, which is then filtered and used throughout the building, with treated wastewater nourishing the landscape. The building intuitively breathes, using automated windows and a ground source heat exchange to maintain perfect comfort without a conventional furnace or air conditioner. Is this the highest form of applied architectural intuition? It certainly represents its most urgent and ethical expression, a conscious return to the principle that a building must serve its place, creating a new synthesis of ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science that offers a genuine blueprint for a harmonious future. The brain's pleasure centers quietly glow to life inside a scanner, responding not to food or music, but to the shape of a room. This is the frontier of neuroarchitecture, a field that is finally giving scientific language to what master builders have always felt in their bones. Researchers are discovering that our minds are hardwired with innate preferences for certain spaces, a biological inheritance shaped by millennia of human experience. We are drawn to environments that offered our ancestors safety and opportunity, and this deep programming now illuminates why the intuitive designs of the past feel so deeply right to us today. This provides a tangible, biological foundation for the ancient idea of architectural delight. One of the most powerful of these innate drives is biophilia, our profound, genetic connection to life and life-like processes. Studies consistently show that even a simple view of nature through a window can significantly lower stress, reduce blood pressure, and improve concentration. This explains why incorporating elements like interior gardens, natural materials, and ample daylight is not merely an aesthetic choice, but a fundamental nourishment for our nervous system. Our brains also show a distinct positive response to fractal patterns, the complex, self-repeating designs found throughout the natural world in things like fern leaves, river networks, and cloud formations. These patterns provide a level of visual richness that is engaging without being overwhelming, offering a sense of organic complexity that soothes the mind. Perhaps the most telling preference is for what researchers call prospect and refuge. the desire for an open, clear view over a landscape combined with a sense of secure shelter at our backs. This combination, which would have been essential for spotting both danger and opportunity while remaining safe, creates a profound sense of comfort and ease. When we look at a medieval cathedral with its protective, enclosing darkness and its distant, glowing stained glass windows offering a glimpse of a higher world, we see this principle rendered in stone and light. Similarly, the traditional Japanese house, with its low, sheltered seating areas and its framed views of a serene garden, perfectly balances a feeling of security with a connection to nature. Does this mean the great intuitive architects were unknowingly tapping into our shared human biology? It seems they were speaking a language our brains are wired to understand, creating spaces that resonate not just with culture, but with our very DNA. This scientific validation creates a remarkable bridge, turning ancient feeling into measurable fact and suggesting that the quest for structural harmony is a fundamental part of being human. A fresh layer of lime mortar is pressed into place, its cool, gritty texture a world away from the smooth glass of a computer screen. This is the new classroom, where architecture students trade their keyboards for trowels in a growing movement to reclaim the wisdom of the hand. Universities and design studios worldwide are now hosting hands-on workshops where the core curriculum is not software proficiency, but material literacy, a direct physical understanding of how wood, stone, and earth behave. The goal is not to produce master masons, but to reawaken the embodied knowledge that was the silent partner in every great building of the past, forging a crucial bridge between the sterile perfection of the digital model and the messy, unpredictable reality of the physical world. This education begins with the grain. Splitting a log with a mallet and froe teaches a designer how wood's internal fibers want to separate, revealing its inherent lines of strength and weakness. Shaping a block of sandstone with a hammer and chisel imparts an intuitive feel for its compressive strength and how it responds to force. Even mixing traditional lime mortar becomes a lesson in chemistry and patience, as one learns to feel the right consistency for a durable, breathable bond that will last for centuries. This tactile learning is reinforced by the revival of ancient techniques like rammed earth, where layers of damp soil are compacted into solid, thermally massive walls, and traditional timber framing, where complex joints are cut by hand to lock a structure together without a single nail. In these workshops, failure is not a setback, it is the most powerful instructor. A stone that cracks under a misplaced chisel blow, or a timber joint that proves too loose, delivers an immediate, unforgettable lesson in structural logic that no textbook can match. The work of architects like Anna Heringer stands as a stunning testament to the power of this reclaimed intuition. Her buildings, such as the Mehti School in Bangladesh, are crafted from local mud and bamboo. These are not primitive huts, but modern, beautiful spaces that are sustainable, affordable, and deeply connected to their community and climate. Her hands-on approach allows her to feel the potential in these humble materials, guiding her to designs that are both innovative and profoundly humane. Can the simple act of touching a material truly make us better designers? The answer lies in the memory of the hand, a sensory library that informs every future decision, ensuring that our designs are not just visually compelling on a screen, but are inherently right, resonant, and rooted in the tangible truth of the physical world. A single mind cannot hold all the knowledge required to build our world today, yet the spirit of the master builder can be resurrected through a new kind of collaboration. This is the vision of integrated practice, a model that consciously weaves together the threads of architecture, engineering, ecology, and artistry that have been pulled apart by centuries of specialization. While deep expertise allowed for incredible technical feats, it also created isolated silos of knowledge, fragmenting the holistic, intuitive vision that gave us the sublime unity of a Gothic cathedral. The modern antidote is a process that brings every discipline to the table from the very beginning, fostering an environment where an engineer's calculation can spark an artist's idea, and an ecologist's insight can reshape a fundamental structural choice. This is where intuitive leaps happen, not in isolation, but in the fertile ground between different ways of seeing. One powerful tool enabling this shift is the Integrated Project Delivery Contract, or IPD. Unlike traditional contracts that often pit designers against builders in an adversarial relationship, an IPD contract aligns everyone's financial incentives toward a shared goal of excellence and efficiency. It makes collaboration not just a nice idea, but a foundational business principle. In this new model, the architect's role evolves from a solitary form giver into a facilitator and a master synthesizer. Their crucial skill becomes listening, translating, and weaving together the diverse languages of structural mechanics, material science, and human experience into a single, coherent vision. Perhaps most importantly, this process invites the builders, the people with calloused hands and tactile wisdom, into the earliest design conversations. Their practical intuition about how materials actually behave on site, how sequences of construction unfold, and where hidden challenges lie can transform a theoretical design into a buildable, elegant reality. The creation of Apple Park in Cupertino stands as a testament to this integrated philosophy. While celebrated for its technological marvels, the campus's true genius lies in its conception as a single, intuitive whole. The circular form of the main building emerged not from a stylistic whim, but from a deep collaboration that considered solar exposure, natural ventilation, and the seamless flow of the surrounding landscape into the workspace itself. Architecture, engineering, and ecology were not separate phases, but constant, interwoven conversations. So, is it truly possible to channel the spirit of a medieval master mason in our age of overwhelming complexity? The answer may not lie in finding one individual genius, but in building a collective genius, a team whose collaborative intuition can once again achieve that profound, resonant harmony we feel in the oldest and most enduring structures. Antoni Gaudi's workshop was not filled with blueprints, but with a strange, delicate forest of hanging strings. To find the perfect shape for the soaring arches of the Sagrada Familia, he constructed an upside-down model of the entire church using cords with small weighted bags attached. Gravity pulled these cords into a series of catenary curves, the same natural arch you see in a hanging chain. For Gaudi, this was not a complex calculation, it was a physical conversation with force itself. He would then photograph the model and turn the image upside down, revealing in an instant the ideal, stable form for his stone columns and vaults, a structure that channeled weight directly downward as if the building had grown from the earth. He operated with a radical belief, declaring that originality is returning to the origin, and for him, the origin was the boundless genius of the natural world. His design language was ruled surface geometry, the elegant, warped planes found in the saddle of a hill, the curl of a leaf, or the hyperboloid shapes in the hollow bones of a bird. These were not arbitrary artistic choices, they were forms proven by nature over millions of years to be inherently strong, efficient, and beautiful. Light and color were not decorations in his plan, they were structural and spiritual materials as vital as stone. He envisioned the interior as a stone forest, with branching columns that open like trees to support a canopy ceiling, perforated to allow shafts of light to cascade downward, dappling the floor just as sunlight filters through a real forest. The immense stained glass windows were carefully calculated to bathe the space in a specific emotional temperature, with cool blues on one side meeting warm yellows and reds from the other, creating an ever-changing symphony of colored light that guides the spirit as much as the eye. The construction of the basilica today is a unique dialogue across centuries. Master craftsmen still work from Gaudi's original, often fragmented plaster models, but now they are scanned in 3 dimensions, their complex organic forms translated into data that guides automated stone cutters. This is a project that lives in 2 eras simultaneously, using 21st century technology to faithfully execute a 19th century vision born from pure intuition. What does this ongoing miracle teach us? The Sagrada Familia stands as proof that the deepest human feeling for form can partner with our most advanced tools, that the intuitive wisdom of the past is not obsolete, but waiting to be unlocked anew. The silent intuition of the Neolithic builder and the algorithm-augmented designs of today are connected by a single, timeless thread, our innate human drive to create structures that feel harmoniously right. This journey has taken us from the feel of a stone in a master's hand to the complex dance of digital parameters, revealing a story not of progress replacing instinct, but of a constant, vital conversation between the two. We have seen how the principles of balance, a deep material knowledge, and a seamless environmental integration guided the earliest architects, and we have witnessed the great tension that arose as intuition was challenged by calculation. Yet in our own time, we see this ancient flame rekindled in the ethics of sustainable design, the revelations of neuroscience, and the new creative partnership with digital tools. The enduring lesson is that the greatest architecture, from the Parthenon to Fallingwater, has never been a product of calculation or intuition alone. It is always a powerful synthesis, a blend of deep, embodied feeling and thoughtful intelligence, whether that intelligence was expressed through sacred geometry, musical ratios, or scientific analysis. The early architects discovered a profound truth that our hyper-rational age is now striving to remember, that buildings are ultimately for people. The most resonant and enduring structures are those that feel correct in our very bones, that lift our spirits, and that exist in a true partnership with the natural world. Let their intuitive genius inspire you to look at the built world with fresh eyes. Feel the spaces you move through every day, and consider the profound, often unspoken, connection between form, function, and human feeling. What intuitive wisdom might we be overlooking in our relentless pursuit of pure efficiency? Share your thoughts on the most intuitively beautiful building you have ever experienced in the comments below, and subscribe to continue this exploration of history's greatest mystery.